Thank you, Jen, and thank you, everyone. I'm really thrilled to be here. Jen was kind enough to introduce my husband, Steve Todd, and I'd also like to introduce our esteemed state court administrator, Andrea Teumanen. Andrea, would you say hello? The Pennsylvania court system doesn't run itself, and the justices on the Supreme Court, and in particular the Chief Justice, has the obligation to administer the courts, all of the 67 counties and 60 judicial districts, but it is Andrea Teumanen and the AOPC, Administrative Office of Pennsylvania Courts, who really focus on this and do that work every day. So thank you, Andrea, for being here. It's my privilege to be with you today in York County. I thank the York County Bar Association President Jen Galloway and Victoria Connor, Chief Executive of the Office of the York County Bar Association and Bar Foundation, for inviting me to speak. I'd also like to thank your PJ, Maria Mr. Cook, for the warm welcome she has given me. And of course, Dr. Thomas Burns, it was really a pleasure to hear from you. Ann Landers once said, at age 20, we worry about what others think of us. At age 40, we don't care what they think of us. At age 60, we realize they haven't been thinking of us at all. So thank you for thinking of me and inviting me. I bring you greetings from all of my colleagues on the Supreme Court. And as we kick off the launch of Women's History Month, I'd just like to take this opportunity to say a few words about women in the law and in our judiciary. As has been mentioned, the Pennsylvania Supreme Court is over 300 years old, and indeed it is the oldest Supreme Court in the nation. While our court was formally established in 1722 pursuant to the Pennsylvania Judiciary Act, it actually is a carryover of William Penn's Provincial Court of 1685. When you think about our court, and when you go into our courtrooms in Philadelphia and Pittsburgh and Harrisburg, you will see many, many pictures of chief justices and distinguished justices over the years, and they're all really old white men, mostly with beards. And I often think that those pictures are looking down at me and saying, what's that girl doing in here? But our first woman, even though we were established in 1722, our first woman to sit on the court was not until 1961, and that was Justice Ann X. Alpern. I think probably a lot of you have heard of her. She was appointed by Governor David Lawrence to fill an interim position on the court. Despite the progressive attitude of Governor Lawrence, however, it was not until a quarter century later in 1988 that another woman would sit on our court. She was Juanita Kidd Stout, also an interim appointee, and she became the second woman to serve as a justice and the first African-American woman to serve on the Supreme Court of any state. It was not until, fast forward or slow forward, it was not until 1995, however, that Justice Sandra Schultz Newman became the first woman ever elected to a full term on our court. 12 years later, in 2007, I became the second woman elected to the court, and I'm now so honored to be the first female Chief Justice of Pennsylvania. After 300 years, I think it's about time. Thank you. Along with my colleagues, Justice Christine Donahue and Justice Sally Updike Mundy, 3 of the 7 justices on our Supreme Court are now women. The first woman to serve on the Superior Court was Judge Phyllis Beck in 1981, and notably, her daughter, Judge Alice Beck Dubois, now serves on that very same court. And to my knowledge, they're the only mother-daughter appellate judge team that I'm aware of anyway. The first woman to serve on the Commonwealth Court by appointment was Genevieve Blatt in 1972, and by election, Madeline Palladino in 1983, followed by Judge Doris Smith Ribner in 1987. Remarkably, as Jen mentioned, The majority of the commission judges now serving on our Superior Court, 12 out of 14 are women. Yeah. Saying on the Commonwealth Court, 7 out of 9 are women. And the president judges of both those courts have been women. Kate Ford Elliott, Bonnie Ledbetter, Susan Gantman, Ann Lazarus, Mary Hannah Levitt, and Renee Cohn Jubileer. Finally, 163 women serve as Pennsylvania trial court judges across our Commonwealth, and many serve as president judges in their respective counties. In 2024, 36% of common pleas court judges were women, 26% of magisterial district court judges were women, and 31% of Philadelphia's municipal court judges were women. 17 women served as president judges in the courts of common pleas in 2024. And I was so pleased to see the graphic when I walked in that listed the first female president judges of all the counties. That was just extraordinary. Here in York, as you know, 5 of the 13 current sitting judges are women, including your president judge, Maria Musty Cook. And women judges throughout the nation should pause and owe a debt of gratitude to Justice Sandra Day O'Connor for paving the way as the first female justice on the U.S. Supreme Court, and to all of the trailblazing women who came before us. These include Myra Bradwell of Chicago, Illinois. Now, has anyone in the room heard of Myra Bradwell? Well, you won't forget her once you hear about her. She is regarded as America's first woman lawyer. In 1869, at the age of 38, she passed the Illinois bar exam with honors and applied for admission to the bar. However, she received discouraging news from the Illinois Supreme Court denying her application for a license to practice. In 1873, the United States Supreme Court affirmed the denial of her admission to the bar with these bitter words: "The civil law, as well as nature herself, has always recognized a wide difference in respective spheres as destinies of men and women. Man is, or should be, a woman's protector and defender. The natural," and this is my favorite part, "the natural and proper timidity and delicacy which belongs to the female sex evidently unfits it for many of the occupations of civil life. The Constitution of the Family Organization, which is founded in the divine ordinances as well as in the nature of things, indicates the domestic sphere as that which properly belongs to the domain and functions of womanhood. The harmony, not to say the identity of interests and views which belong or should belong to the family institution, is repugnant to the idea of a woman adopting a distinct independent career from that of her husband. The paramount destiny and mission of woman is to fulfill the noble and benign offices of wife and mother. This is the law of the Creator." Not so much. Nearly 20 years later, in 1892, 20 years, at the age of 61, Myra Bradwell was finally granted a license to practice law by the U.S. Supreme Court. Sadly, she died 2 years later. To put this in perspective, it was not until 1920 that the 19th Amendment to the United States Constitution became law and women were granted the right to vote. A contemporary of Myra Bradwell, Caroline Burnham Kilgore, was the first woman admitted to the bar in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and the first woman lawyer in Philadelphia. Born in I love these women's stories because I know we all think we've suffered and we've struggled, but when you hear what these women who came before us have done, it's simply remarkable. In 1838, Caroline Burnham Kilgore was orphaned at age 11, and she supported herself as a domestic worker and later a school teacher. Kilgore taught school before switching her focus to medicine. She enrolled in medical school in New York and earned her medical degree in 1985. She then decided to study law. I'm sorry, did I say the wrong date there? In 1865. She then decided to study law. The University of Pennsylvania Law School rejected her application for admission in 1871. Accompanying the refusal of her application was the courteous observation of the dean that the time for him to resign would be when they admitted a woman to Penn Law School. After studying privately, Kilgore asked to take the bar exam in 1873 and again in 1874, but was refused. After 10 years of lobbying, Kilgore finally became the first female student admitted to the University of Pennsylvania Law School in 1881, and she graduated in 1883. She had persevered 16 years before she was finally admitted to practice before the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania in 1885, and before the Supreme Court of the United States in 1890. Turning the page to the 20th century, it was not until 1927 that the first Black woman was to graduate from law school in Pennsylvania. Her name was Sadie Tanner Moselle Alexandra, and she was born in 1898 and was a pioneering professional woman and civil rights activist. Alexander earned her PhD in economics and her law degree from the University of Pennsylvania Law School. She was the first Black woman to practice law in our Commonwealth, and she died in 1989 at the age of 91. There are many more stories of women who struggled for decades to get where we are today, and I know everyone in this room worked hard to achieve his or her career, but I think it's important to look back and think of these women whose shoulders we stand upon when we practice law and sit on the bench. I just wanted to close with a word to the young women lawyers in the room. I met quite a few of them at the reception. Many years ago, when I chose to enter the legal profession, it was a man's world. Thankfully, that has changed, and we practice and sit as judges along with our colleagues who are men, and women are law firm partners, law school deans, general counsel, bar presidents, judges, and Supreme Court justices. That is not news to you. But I wanted to point out that in striving for success, there is no reason to be anything other than who you are in order to make it in what is admittedly a tough profession where assertiveness and tenacity reign supreme. You can be tough without being a bully. You can be kind without being weak. There was a book published in 2004 entitled Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office. Well, as the first female Chief Justice of Pennsylvania, I'm here to tell you, nice girls do get the corner office.
Yeah.
Goodbye.